afternoon, Delaware Valley. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. And again, we work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and Delaware since 2018. Excuse the hoarse voice. I was yelling at the Sixers loss on Sunday with my son. Exciting fourth quarter, not a great first half. Hopefully they do better tonight. More importantly, Stacey, how you doing today? How's everything going?
A little crazy.
A little crazy,
but everything's
right?
Great. Yes.
Life in the day of a realtor,
Exactly.
I think, is the and a top producing realtor at that. So let's jump right into the news. And again, if you have questions for us, it's info@tooletimeradio.com. That's our email address. And we are live on WWDB-AM. And there was an interview this week. Glenn Kelman, if you don't know him, he is the CEO of Redfin. And he was on CNBC for about a 2-3 minute spot, which is interesting in that it would probably take him hours to do that pre-COVID-19. Now it's like 8 minutes for a 3-minute spot, so probably a little more efficient for him. He came on to CNBC and said, hey, the housing market, it's slowing down a little bit. Things are opening. People aren't sitting at home in their houses Googling real estate and going on Zillow and saying, hey, maybe we'd like to live there. And we haven't spent any leisure money over the past 15 months, so maybe we'll go buy the property. They're going on vacations. People are going out to eat. What do you think about that statement from Glenn Kelman? I mean, he's in the know, CEO of Redfin. No matter what you say about the company, smart guy, has his finger on the pulse of the industry. What do you think about that, Stacey?
Well, there is definitely some truth to that. People are going out. Things have opened up, and people want some sense of normalcy, and they are taking vacations. So maybe their focus has changed. They're not stuck at home anymore and Googling, where can I live, where I want to move out of this house. So it's definitely changing, which I think for the positive as far as people getting back to some sense of normalcy.
Well, you bring up a good point, because there was a skit on Saturday Night Live, and it was about you're bored at home. It's the pandemic. What are you going to do? And it was like Zillow. And then people were looking at they're like, look at this master bathroom. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Check out this fire pit in the backyard. And that is definitely a thing. I mean, there are people that are in that voyeur phase where they look at properties all the time and they're constantly checking out real estate. People love to get obsessed with it. And it was when that happens and it's on Saturday Night Live, that's a real thing. So I do agree with what he's saying there. Some of the other points that he talked about, and let's talk about these. And then there's some additional data I want to share so we can kind of get our hands around this to help the people that are listening to see if they're making a real estate decision, what to do. Glenn also said frustration's been a big driver for buyers and maybe slowing down a little bit. So what do you think about that? I mean, you're on the front lines. You've sold 50-some homes in the past 12 months. Individually. So are you seeing that frustration come out for some folks? Are they pulling back from the market? Is that a real thing on a ground level?
There is frustration. If whether they're new and not totally understanding of how the market is, and you give them the rundown and the education about what's truly going on in the market,
sure,
it might sway them a little bit right there. And some of the buyers that I've been working with are feeling a little, lagging. Maybe they want to just take a couple of months off, just to regroup and let some time pass. But I've noticed that there's some frustration out there for sure.
And anytime you have to write 4, 5, 6 offers and not get any of the houses, not get any of them, you're 0 for 6, right? If you were 0 for 6 in a baseball game, people would be telling you to sit down and get on the bench. So that's a real thing. I think that's a real frustration that people go through because it's an emotional roller coaster. You get excited about a home. You think you're going to live there with your family. You can imagine your dog running around in the backyard, and then all of a sudden, well, guess what? There's 15 other offers and you were in 14th place. Now, it's not always 14th place, but that's kind of the idea. So I do agree with him there. Another thing that's happening too is that inventory has bubbled up slightly, not a lot, slightly. If we look at the numbers that came in through the end of April, we don't have the May numbers yet. Inventory went from about a 1 to a 1.2 month supply. So about 20% more. Now, this is still very low, to be very clear for the audience, because an even market is a 6-month supply where buyers and sellers have that equal leverage in a negotiation. So 1 to 1.2 months, not a big move, but it puts some relief on the market from, okay, maybe it's slowing down a little bit because the buyers all of a sudden have like 2 choices instead of only 1, right? But what Glenn also said is that the inventory issues are going to be bigger than rates, because even if a rate's low, you can't buy a home that doesn't exist. So are you seeing that there's still people motivated by rates, or is the inventory really the biggest challenge that's causing maybe some people to pull back from the market, and the really motivated folks to be the ones that are looking? So the people that really want to transact and they have a real need.
The people that really have a need and they really want to transact, they are going to get under contract. They will find their home. Folks that their motivation might not be truly 100%, maybe they're 80%.
Sure.
They are the ones that I'm finding that they're pulling back. They might have a home to sell, which if you have a home sale contingency in this market, you're pretty much, your offer might be the first one off the table when the sellers are considering. So typically they're the buyers I'm working with now that are way more frustrated and are thinking, well, you know what, maybe we'll just stay in this house for a little longer, but we'll keep our eye open. So, they're pulling back slightly.
Well, you bring up a really great point there. And in my view of the market, and I've been through a couple of these things, whether it was the 2001, 9/11 attacks, right? Whether it was the 2008, I guess they call it the Great Recession.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember when the car companies failed. That's what I always think of. And then there's been this. And so I've been through a couple of these market cycles where things went really heavy one way. And it doesn't mean that it's a good or bad market. It's that you're dealing with incredible extreme conditions. And because of that, what I've seen with those is that you mentioned the people that have a home to sell, or there's a couple dominoes that have to fall, and it's the ones that really have a need to move are the ones that are sticking with it. So that's probably the buyers that are saying, if I could find this great home where it has that extra bedroom for my kids, or it's still in the same elementary school feeder district, or if a home ever came available on this street right here, I'd buy it. Those are the folks that are going to be kind of pulling back a little bit. So I 100% agree with you there. And at the same time, there's the folks that they got 3 kids and they're in a 2-bedroom condo. They're moving, right?
There's definite motivation there to move.
Downsizers. I mean, and
Downsizers.
especially now how people look at their finances. I have found that people are much more serious about their money than they ever have been. If you look at like credit scores peaked for FICO scores over the past 12 months to an all-time high. You're seeing all these folks that are really concerned about having money in the bank, especially when you're told, hey, you can't work for a couple months, because that happened a year ago. So that's a really great observation on your part. And, in general, for the real estate agents that are listening, take note of this. Determining the client's motivation is going to be your best way to decide who's worth your time. And for a buyer or a seller, if you can find out that motivation of the other party involved, that can also tell you how likely you are to come to an agreement, because some people, they'll only sell if, they'll only buy if, rather than I'm selling my home because I'm moving to Florida, or I'm selling my home because, the if versus because is a real thing here.
My lease is expiring at the end of October.
Well, and the thing about that, rent always goes up too. We just talked about that today. Rent really doesn't go down. So the people that have made the decision to buy, it's always going to be the better move for them because otherwise you're just paying someone else's mortgage.
Correct.
And their taxes and their insurance and their profit. People forget about all that stuff. So you're seeing the same thing here. So you're agreeing with Glenn that inventory issues are a bigger deal than rates. And his last point, and then we're going to get into some other information that supports all this, is that this run on the market or this current market cycle we're in, I'm not going to call it a bubble because I do not believe we are in a bubble right now. I'm clear that we're not. It's going to end with a whimper, not a bang. Tell me about that. What do you think?
It's going to end with a whimper, not a bang. So it's not going to be it's just going to gradually change. So I believe that the inventory will continue to, we'll have more inventory over time. So, and eventually the market will level out. So it's not going to be this major shift like overnight.
Well, I agree with you. And if you look at a lot of the data that's out there, You look at the folks that are paid to make these predictions. So like Lawrence Yun with the National Association of Realtors. You look at Zillow's data. Everyone is saying the same message. The numbers might be different, and I'm not going to compare the numbers, but the message is that there's about 5 years of time it's going to take to clear out the current demand because the millennial home buyers aren't going anywhere.
No.
So it may not be as hot as it was. And when I say hot, we're talking like white hot. It's not even just hot, white hot. It's that kind of next level. That's not going to change like it was back in, I would say, January, February, March. It was white hot. Then there was a little more inventory that came on the market because we're in that time of year when inventory typically climbs, which didn't happen last year. Right. So that's as much of a factor as anything else, especially here in Pennsylvania, because of how aggressively we were shut down. So I agree with you. And then if you look at the numbers that we're seeing, prices aren't just going to drop. That would be a bang. If prices went down 10% next year, because right now we're up like 11, 12% year over year in the greater Philadelphia area in terms of the average sale price, that's a bang. The whimper is next year they're going to go up like 6%, 7%. The year after that, maybe in the 5% range. The year after that, and then we're talking about 2024, it's going to be in that 3 to 5 range, and then 2025 probably the same. And that's more of a normal appreciation that we've seen throughout history. So what he's saying there, I agree with everything. I mean, it was very insightful 3 minutes, but let's talk about some data that's going to support it. So there was some information that came out about 6 days ago that fewer people are submitting mortgage applications. So mortgage applications dropped for the second straight week, and they were down 4% for the week ending May 28th, because all this data gets a little lagged here. And that's according to the Mortgage Bankers Association weekly mortgage application survey. And that, if you look at that data compared to Memorial Day of 2020, it was down 4%. And the overall housing index hit its lowest point since February, according to MBA's Associate Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting, Joel Kahn. And what he goes on to say is that tight housing inventory, obstacles to a faster rate of new construction, and rapidly rising home prices continue to hold back purchase activity. So all the things we just talked about, right? So we're actually seeing it with the data, the lead indicator, because besides writing offers, filing mortgage applications, which can't happen until you have what?
An agreement of sale.
An executed agreement of sale. So because of the inventory challenges, and you don't have these executed agreement of sales coming in, or agreements of sale, excuse the grammar there. No, I'm the one that said it, not you. You don't need to apologize. So according to that, I mean, you're seeing that less people are applying for loans, and that's right in line with everything he's saying here, Glenn Kelman's saying. So what do you think about this, Stacey? I mean, what does that piece of data mean to you? You're talking to someone that's thinking about buying or selling a home. What are you telling them right now?
Well, for home sellers, it's definitely still a great time for them to consider putting their home on the market, for sure. They're going to have all the benefit of the increased appreciation value to their home. If it's positioned correctly in the market, they could have multiple offers going over asking price and waiving inspections. So for home sellers, definitely great time to list the house. Home buyers, I'm going to just walk them through the process and explain all the information and exactly what the market is today, not what they've heard from their friends or their family, but exactly what is going on in the market and why. And also, I'm going to just present to them different ways that we can go about presenting offers, crafting offers, and making sure they understand it's going to be speed to market. So if there's a home that comes on the market, it hits the market on a Thursday, I'm going to schedule the appointment first, right off the jump. Get in right away Friday. If you're considering the offer, get it written and submitted ASAP. So there's really, it's definitely about getting out there as quick as possible, turnaround time.
So I would actually go one step further. And everything you said there is 100% accurate. I would tell the buyers that need to transact and they're getting a little weary, they're getting a little frustrated. I've got good news for you. Other people are feeling this too. And if we stick with this and persevere and get you into the place where you want to be, we're going to have a little more success right now, because not everyone has that perseverance. They're not ready to hang in there. And there's a lot of people that make an offer and they don't get it. And then, I mean, to me, that's, if you're an agent, you should be following up with that person because they were motivated enough to write a contract. A lot of people don't. They don't follow up. We know that. And so for the buyers that are out there that maybe feel frustrated, when you see news like this start to come out, you want to zig when the buyers are zagging, right? Because your competition isn't the listings. Your competition is the other buyers that you're dealing with. And, if you look at, and let's get to the next piece of data here, because I think that's really relevant, is the Fannie Mae's HPSI. So that's the Fannie Mae Home Purchase Sentiment Index. This came out yesterday. It shows that just 35% of consumers believe now is a good time to buy a home, down from 47% in April. That's a month later, right? That's a huge decline. You're talking about 12% decline. I mean, that's almost a third of where they were. And the people who believe it's a bad time to be a home buyer, that went up 56% from 48%. So we saw an 8% jump there. So we saw, almost like a 15% increase on that number. So knowing that that's the sentiment, and maybe you're one of those people that feels like it's a bad time to buy a home. So let's say you get a call or you talk to someone and say, I'm concerned. I don't know if it's a great time to buy a home. What should I do, Stacey? What are you telling them?
I'm telling them, yes, it's a very exciting time and it's a great time to buy a home. And I will find out their motivation, and I'm just going to guide them the best I can through this, through the market the way it is. And it is a great time to buy a home. The interest rates are low, and you just, like you said, you have to have a little bit of grit and persevere. I've managed the people who were motivated that I have been working with. I've managed to get them under contract, get them into their homes. And it's the best feeling for them. And they're so excited. We might have to write 4 or 5, 6 offers. But with each experience, some of them became more determined because they had that motivation to buy. So for my home buyers, I'm going to tell them, yep, let's stay the course, stay positive, and just keep trying. Eventually we'll get there. We'll get you under contract and you'll be able to move into your new home.
Well, and what you mentioned there is so critical, because this is a mistake that is made by, I'm going to put it on everyone, not just one person. I mean, ultimately it's on the professional, because that's their job, right? You go to a doctor to get the diagnosis. You go to the lawyer to figure out how you're going to stay out of trouble or navigate a situation. Not enough people have that initial meeting to talk about what their goals are, what's the market like, and what's this process going to be like, so I know what to expect and can make decisions faster and make decisive decisions, a little repetitive, decisive moves in the marketplace, because that's what it takes right now.
Right.
I mean, how many times you showed a home and you had like an hour to decide if you were going to?
Oh gosh, too many, too many to count right now. Yeah. I had that experience over the weekend. Took a buyer out 6:30 on Sunday night, put the offer in, and she was under contract by 11 o'clock Monday morning.
Well, so what did you do with that? So let's replay that. This is a great case study. So you showed the home 6:30 at night on a Saturday. And when was the offer submitted? And did you meet with that person, or did you explain everything before you showed that home to her?
I explained we had a conversation on the phone before we even went.
Okay, good. Okay.
Out to, yeah. She did have a pretty good feel of the market. But I just wanted her to be sure of exactly, what the conditions were out there. I got a lot of information. She was already pre-approved. She had plenty of savings, and she had motivation. She needed to get into a new place with her 2 children. And she wanted to be in somewhere before September. All the right makings, and she's been casing the market. So when this particular,
the voyeur stage, right?
Exactly.
And I say that as a joke, but that's what people do. I mean, everyone that moves, they are online looking for months in advance. This happens every time.
Yep. So, and she found this place. She really wanted to get it. I could sense it in her voice, the urgency in her voice. So to me, that means she's, I just felt it was serious. And yes, my instincts proved right. And she's extremely serious. We were talking about how to present the best offer during the showing as we were going through the property, inspecting as much as we could about the property to have as much information as possible. And that night, we put the offer together, submitted it. There was another offer that was competing. As a matter of fact, the home really wasn't. I couldn't get an appointment through Showtime
Sure,
for the showing.
sure.
I had to
So
actually
that's the appointment center and how we schedule showings, just to give everyone
Yes.
some perspective.
Right. I actually had to call a listing agent directly to get the appointments. So that tells you right there, there probably wasn't a whole lot of activity,
Mhm.
but there was already multiple offers on that particular home. So by the next morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call that they chose her offer over the other one.
Well, and so here's the thing. As much as Glenn Kelman saying the market's slowing down a little bit, as much as we're seeing that there's less mortgage applications being filed, or that statistically home buyers are weary, there is opportunity to buy a home in the market with the right advice and with understanding the process. Doesn't matter who you call, just get someone who knows what they're talking about. I cannot stress this enough. And make sure they have a plan, because most agents don't have a plan. Most buyers don't know what they're getting into. It doesn't matter. When it's your first time doing anything, especially a real estate transaction, people don't know what they're getting into. So, despite whatever's happening in the market, and I would agree with a lot of what he said in the CNBC spot, there's a lot of data to back it up. There's still opportunities that people that are weary in the market, they have to move quick. They only have a limited amount of time to make decisions. There's ways to navigate that with the right advice. So on that note, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and talk about some ways to prep your home for the market. And then we've got an amazing guest, the world-renowned broke agent calling in from the West Coast. Very exciting. We'll be back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance Agency.
He's going to call in.
If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last...
At 610. Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. All right, welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. And again, if you want to ask us a question, you want to get in touch, you want to hear us talk about something, the email address for the show is info@tooletimeradio.com. Remember, there's an E at the end of Toole. So, Stacey, we're going to have a quick segment here, and then we have the world-renowned, world-famous broke agent coming on. I'm very excited for this guest. If you guys don't know who he is, you're in for a great treat. You can follow him at thebrokeagent.com or at thebrokeagent on Instagram, excuse me. But what I want to talk about first quickly are ways to increase the value of your home or help it sell quickly, because there was an article that came out on Inman, and it said, get ready, 6 seller tasks that can increase a listing's value. And I find the headline very misleading. I want to chat with you about it. We want to go through these 6 things. What I will say first is that all of these things are probably going to help you sell your home quicker. And you probably will get a higher price for the property. You're not going to get an ROI on these improvements. In our marketplace, there is data out there. It comes from Realtor Magazine. It says that you only get about 61% back on things you do just to sell your home. So like putting in a new kitchen, redoing a bed. Like, people want to make these improvements to sell their home, and that is a mistake. I'm going to tell you right now, especially in the current incredible market conditions that we're seeing. All that in mind, let's go through the list. I'm just going to fire these at you one at a time here. So the first one call in an expert. So that means basically calling in someone that's going to check out the property, see if it needs any fixing, any cosmetic issues. What do you think about that piece of advice?
I think if you're not a handy type of person, definitely if you want to make sure that there's no glaring things like electrical that might be, if you have some lighting fixtures or things like that, I think calling in a contractor might be a good idea. Walk around the property. It could get another set of eyes on the home because when you're living in your home, you get used to the way things are. So you
Very true.
overlook a lot
Very
of
true.
things. And what you think is completely okay, if you have another set of eyes, they'll be like, oh, you know what? If you just fix this little piece of trim right here, that might make a big difference. So I think that's probably a good idea. And it's not going to cost you that much money to have somebody come through to just look at your property.
So I agree with this in terms of anything that might turn a buyer off. So think about like, there's like a light fixture hanging off or like,
Right.
this is maintenance stuff.
Yes.
And what I'll tell anyone is you don't want to have something that's going to turn off a buyer and it's like an obvious, easy $10 or $15
Right.
fix.
You know how many times I see that kind of thing?
That's
A lot.
because they don't have an, and what I would say with this expert that they're talking about calling in, get someone that tells you how to prep your home, not even a contractor.
Mhm.
My view is that you want to get someone that knows, okay, you need to paint this room. You need fresh carpet in here. Paint the treads on the steps because you get like the sole marks on there from walking up and down. That's the first thing people see when they walk in the door. Like if there's a window seal that's broken or you need some fresh landscaping, a lot of this, and we're going to hit on a lot of this stuff, but my view is that I wouldn't bring in a contractor so much as someone that knows what it's going to take to get the home market ready. I agree with that 100% and I'm clear it's going to help. So I think that's a little different than what they're recommending here. Number 2, set the mood for a sale. Lighting is impactful. Is the main thing they really talked about here, and switching light bulbs and making sure they're all kind of uniform. What do you think about this?
Well, making sure that all your light bulbs are working is key. So I'm not sure how far you want to take it if, it has to be like mood lighting all the way across the board, but make sure all the light bulbs are working. Make sure that every light bulb in the closet, in the basement, areas that people want to access, get those light bulbs in working order. I think that's imperative because there's nothing worse than buyers and agents frantically trying to pull out their phones to use a light to go down basement steps. So that's definitely important. Again, I don't know if it has to be mood lighting, but I do like the tips that they said, see what your house looks like in the morning, afternoon, and night as far as the
Agree
lighting.
with that, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip.
And in general, I would tell sellers, put your lights on before every showing. Just be ready to pay a little bit of a heightened electric bill. It's going to make a big difference because no one wants to buy a dark property. And sometimes you may not know if you're there, like you said, in the morning or the afternoon, the lighting is a lot different. Or if like they have like big bushes or landscaping that you're going to take out, that can affect the lighting too. So I would definitely put on some lights before you come in. I do agree with this one. I find that to be really, really important. All right. Number 3, put the home's best foot forward. They mentioned a stain in carpet, a warped wooden floorboard, a broken tile, all those things. So what do you think about that? Should they be fixing? And we kind of hit on this, but let's hit on it again.
Well, I think the stains on carpeting is a bad look. So do what you can to get the carpeting in as best shape as possible. I think that's an easy, inexpensive fix, actually. I'm not sure about a warped wooden floorboard. I think you would have to assess how warped it is. Is it a tripping hazard? Broken tile can definitely take away if it's in the middle of the floor. So those things can be pretty easy fixes, actually. So flooring is what everybody looks at, and it's what you're walking on. And that is definitely going to be something that the buyers look at and assess, especially carpeting with the stains.
Well, and one of the most inexpensive things you can do that has the biggest impact is fresh paint and new carpeting. If the hardwoods need some work or something there, I mean, I would kind of do a spot repair because you may put something in, the buyer might hate it, right? And in general, when you're looking at what to do to get a home ready, we're also like not in Manhattan. We're not in Newport Beach. We're in the greater Philadelphia area. I'm clear, clean and neat is the best way to go. So a lot of this stuff here they're talking about, and that's why you want to bring in an expert to do that. So just to be able to kind of walk through and do those things. Number 4, groom the grounds.
Yes.
So this one's pretty obvious. What do you think?
Totally, totally. Because a drive-by is the first impression. So if you have, leaves from last fall still piled up in a corner of your yard, it just gives a bad look. It's easy to spruce up the grounds. Put some flowers in, freshen up the mulch, weeds, get rid of the weeds, any bushes overgrown. That's easy. And I'll tell you, it makes a world of difference.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, no one wants to see the weeds coming up. No one wants to see the old mulch that's burnt out. So I mean, think of like you go to a wedding, you get a shave and a haircut. Well, at least I do. I mean, you don't need that stuff, Stacey, but guys like me and Nick, we're getting trimmed up and ready to go. And that's really what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
So far we're kind of agreeing with a lot of this. The fifth one, and this is where it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
Look back in time. So if the home's a little older, take the time to do some research with the sellers to find any great images or stories that you can share with potential buyers. Specifically, they mention historical properties. What do you think about this?
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting. I was trying to figure out exactly what they were talking about. If it's an historical property that maybe somebody along the trail made a stop that was famous in our history.
Exactly.
That would be a cool artifact to lay around like a newspaper clipping or something. But it might help if your buyer is, likes that kind of thing.
100% accurate there. That's a specific segment of the market. Some people want to buy these historical homes that have historical significance, and we have a lot of those here. So I would share some information there as a marketing package. Like, sometimes they may want to know that it was part of, there's a home that a buddy of mine sold, John Collins, who mentored me for a year, that was the only home in Valley Forge Park and had a lot of historical significance. So that the person who bought that really cared about it. Some people could probably care less, right? And so I think it kind of goes both ways. I sold a home on the Brandywine Battlefield in Westchester. There's a lot of homes with historical significance in Philadelphia, especially down in kind of the old city area. So I would put in the appropriate information there. Don't oversell it, though. I think some people focus too much on that and the modern amenities, which is number 6, which is design with the times. So when they talk about professionally staging a home, 23% of buyers agents said that home staging increased the dollar value offered between 1% to 5%. I don't know if I don't know if that's real data. That's just what they think. So what do you think about designing or modernizing properties?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Well, staging, I think if your home, if you already have furniture and things in the home, there's certain ways that things can be placed maybe better. And they talk about little feng shui in here. But I think the most important is to declutter. Take out things that aren't necessary. Remove extra pieces of furniture. Open it up. So decluttering is number 1, and that goes along with staging. If a house is empty, maybe you want to consider professionally staging a home. It really depends on the price point and the budget that a seller has. But in this market, I'm not sure if it really, makes that big of a difference.
What I would say is getting the home clean, neat, and ready to go is going to be the thing that works the most. And that's the advice we've given people for 20 years. And that's why we have a staging team that goes in and does the same things. And, again, if you're a new agent trying to get into real estate and you're not sure where to start with all this, we're great people to talk to. Check out our website. It's realestatescholarshipprogram.com. You don't need a license. We'll pay for you to get licensed. But these are kind of the resources that we offer, because here's the reality. You and I need to be focusing on selling more homes. And this is an important part of the process that can suck up a lot of your time. And if you don't have someone that's totally trained in that, because to be very realistic, I'd be fine with a 75-inch TV and a recliner in the house. And I'd say, this is great. That's not what every buyer is going to want, especially when there's like a family and other people involved. So I think that this is good stuff overall, but you got to know what's going to work in your market. That's what I find the most.
Correct.
So on that note, special guest. We're going to be all over real estate news all over the place. We got the broke agent coming on next. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years.
Right. Yeah, he's on now if you want to talk to him before we come back.
Yeah. No cursing on the air, Eric. over your income. Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. All right, welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB AM. We're going to break the internet with the next guest we have coming on. There he is, the broke agent, Eric Simon, a friend of mine. At least we're kind of somewhat friends. I don't know, maybe on a good day. All seriousness, Eric is probably one of the most present and influential people on social media in the real estate industry, because there's a lot of crazy things that go on, and he knows how to kind of what it's like on the other side. He's an agent himself. He's from California. So, Eric, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of talk about your company, The Broke Agent, and how it all started.
Okay, yeah, I could follow up that electric segment on decluttering that you guys just had with some social media information. But yeah, my name's Eric Simon. I'm an agent in Los Angeles. I started The Broke Agent as a social media company 6 years ago, where I post funny memes, GIFs, videos, skits, YouTube videos, podcasts, stuff like that kind of covers the inner monologue of a struggling real estate agent. And it's blown up since I started, and it's now becoming my full-time job. We got over 500,000 followers across all platforms, and yeah, it's, landed me a spot on the Tom Toole radio show. So I couldn't be happier.
There's probably about 7 people listening right now, so you're going to be at 5,007 followers or whatever the number is.
Right. Yeah.
In all seriousness, being a real estate agent, I don't think a lot of people, the consumer doesn't get like what happens on the back end. I mean, there's people that are at their wits' end in these transactions. It's emotional.
Yes.
It's stressful. It's also stressful being a real estate agent, which might be the reason why you got into this as your full-time job than buying and selling. So talk a little bit about that. Like I know this is your full-time job now, but like how did it kind of evolve? Because I know you weren't always the broke agent. You were actually a real estate agent trying to sell houses.
Yeah, well, I was always the broke agent. I just never had the Instagram handle the broke agent. But I started off as a buyer's agent and assistant for a team in Beverly Hills, and I was sitting dead open houses 2-3 times a week. I had no idea what to talk about, no idea what to say. I couldn't even tell you the square footage of the house because I was getting absolutely no guidance. So I think there's a huge kind of education gap for agents when they first get in the industry, is we have no idea how to interact with people until we actually experience it. So I had tremendous anxiety doing everything. I felt like I was an actor, basically playing the role of a real estate agent in every situation. And then trying to actually get leads, cold calling and door knocking was impossible for me. I also felt extremely uncomfortable on the phone. I was getting no traction, no listing appointments, and it was not what you see on $1 Million Listing or Selling Sunset or anything like that. So it's not as glamorous as everybody thinks. It's not as easy as flipping on a light switch, that's for sure. So I think a lot of people could relate with the content because there's a ton of agents out there also who aren't crushing it like you guys.
I mean, I don't know that we're crushing it. We always joke around that our show would be $250,000 listing because we live in Philadelphia. But so right. But you bring up a really good point. Like this is hard work. So, you've been through it. You've been on the other side. And so, I mean, talk about, you've got some really great content coming out. And what I love about this is that I think it actually provides a relief for real estate agents. And this is probably the first time I'm ever going to compliment you, and also maybe the last.
Seriously, this is a complete change of tone. Usually you just message me telling me how much you hate me. So this is nice.
We're usually talking about the Sixers money line, but that's another story. But so and Stacey, I want you to jump in here with some questions because you haven't got a chance to meet Eric, but we met at the Tom Ferry Summit a couple years ago, and I think why you have such a following is because you're not. I don't know that you're creating the content in terms of documenting it, but this is stuff that happens every day, and
yeah.
So what you've probably had a lot of people reach out to you, and I see like some of the stories you post on Instagram, and I mean they're even just sending you the content now, and it's a channel. So I'm a believer you're helping real estate agents deal with the day-to-day. How do you feel about that?
I feel great about that. I think a lot of people message me that and say that it really helps them get through the day. And it's great to see something relatable that they're actually experiencing and seeing them tag their friends and say, hey, I remember the situation. This happened to us at, 1453 Apple Street or something like that, like providing a specific example. But when I first started, there was no one else that was really creating funny content in the industry. There was lighter side of real estate, but I don't really find that funny. You probably do, because it's kind of more geared to fools. But it's, you know, I think that it's better to, you know, cover just all the horrible stuff that happens to us, because all I saw on Instagram when I first started being an agent was success story after success story, motivational quotes. Here's my listing. Here's my just sold. And it turns out 90% of agents fail in like the first 3 years, right?
It's 87% in 5. So that, I mean, you're right. I mean,
okay, close. Whatever.
It's too many. It's, I mean, that's an incredible,
Exactly.
that's an incredible rate. So
yeah.
Well,
So when I started it started picking up quickly, and then finally agents started actually submitting content as well, because they kind of felt now that someone else is doing this, they could actually show their losses. And I think that their clients and their followers are starting to relate with that a little bit more than kind of the salesy, hey, I'm a real estate agent, suited and booted pitch, because people relate with humor, and using humor in marketing on social media is definitely a good way to go.
I mean, obviously it's working. I mean, you know, he's got, I mean, I'm looking at his Instagram profile here. He's got like almost $300,000 follower, 300,000 followers, excuse me. Stacey, you got any questions, jump in, but you're not just doing like memes and posts and GIFs. You wrote a book. You've got a podcast, the Over Ask podcast.
A best-selling book, yes.
Yeah, it is a bestseller. I mean, I got one free from Tom Ferry's office, so I could not contribute to that. But or I think you sent us one, actually.
Yeah, it's the #1 real estate comic book in the world, because it's the only in its existence. But sold about 10 copies of that. You know, did not make me rich.
My kids thought it was a coloring book, so I mean, at least there was some sort of use for it. But,
I can't afford the coloring printing job, so that's why.
Well, but and also, but you've written a book. You have an Over Ask podcast, which you've gotten some great guests on there. You've had Mauricio Umansky on there. You had Matt Leonetti, who I know you do a lot of stuff with. You got the BNN, the Broke News Network. Talk about what you kind of cover on those different platforms, because it's not all just, you know, Instagram funny photos. I mean, there's a lot of work that you put into this, which to me is why people follow you.
Yeah, I'm trying to go the Barstool approach and create an entire media company around this. So initially when I first started, it was just memes and tweets and kind of skit videos and stuff like that. But now that I had an audience of entertaining, I thought the next step would be to help educate agents as well. And of course, I'm not going to educate agents on how to sell more property, because that's not what I'm good at. But hopefully I can put them in front of people and use like my network and connections and introduce them to people that could actually help them with whether it's social media strategy or actually helping them sell homes. So yeah, we have the Broke News Network, which is kind of like a satire, 2 or 3 minute like SNL style, like here's what's going on in the real estate market. Basically content that I wish I had when I first started in real estate, because you could read Inman News and you could read Housing Wire, Realtor.com, and, you know, try to figure out what's going on in the market. But I think anything wrapped in comedy, education wise, will be consumed and understood a little bit better. So we have that, Over Ask podcast, and a couple other stuff I'm working on as well.
And I think that's why you're so popular, because it is humor. And there's a lot of things that go on in just, you know, a couple of hours in the day of a realtor that, you know, could really sink your ship. And I think when you find some humor in it and you can relate, oh yeah, other people are going through the same thing, have been through the same thing, and you can make light of it and laugh about it, I think it really helps. Let me just ask you a quick question. What were you doing before you became a real estate agent?
I worked at the Laugh Factory Comedy Club, which is a comedy club in Sunset in Los Angeles. I wasn't performing comedy. I was doing their marketing. So I basically try to help them like recuperate their 6 shows on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. So I'd come up with social media promotions. So I was always in the comedy world and then also doing social media. And that's kind of where I learned to write down everything funny. I never knew what I was going to do with it, but then I also had a blog called The Pudgy Caddy, which was kind of a sports satire blog, kind of like a Barstool Sports-esque type, except with literally no readers, no followers. And then no one was paying me, but yeah.
And then where did the idea to get into real estate, where did that come into play?
I knew a girl at a receptionist at Hilton and Highland in Beverly Hills. I quit the Laugh Factory, and then I was just making Vines, which is a 6-second video platform, kind of like the early days of TikTok, basically. And she saw that I was unemployed and just trying to, you know, make it on social media. And she's like, you got to get a job. So I became a temporary receptionist for 2 weeks in a real estate brokerage, and then eventually got hired as an assistant. So I kind of saw it from all angles, from like a staff position, assistant position, a team, and then an actual agent myself.
Gotcha.
And you
That's
hated all of
awesome.
them.
Honestly, I did. I did hate all of them, and I still hate it, which is why I'm doing this. I don't see how anybody enjoys it.
Well, I mean, look, I've been doing this 20 years, and Stacey has been, Stacey's the opposite of you, where she's had great success in 12 months. But she also, when I told her you were coming on, I mean, this is the first time they're meeting, and it was excitement. It was, wow, it's this guy, and I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, like, so, as someone who didn't know Eric until literally right now, I mean, give us your view of him, and then maybe we can talk about some of the business attraction techniques and some of the content you're putting out, Eric. But I want to kind of hear the other party, because we've known each other a couple of years, and we've kept in touch. I mean, even though we don't see each other a lot, when I'm in California, you're definitely someone I hit up.
Well,
you're asking her to analyze who I am after meeting me.
Yes, exactly. This is what we do here.
to go over my entire personality.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
we're talking about your brand, buddy. Your brand.
I didn't
brand.
know that, Tom, that you guys were so tight. I didn't realize that until today, and I'm like so excited. I was so happy because I follow you on Facebook, and I'm telling you, the stuff that you post, it's just great. I mean, honestly, I love the memes because I crack up at most of them. And one of them, there is one that's my ultimate favorite.
Is it appropriate for the radio? Might be the best one.
Well, it's the one where what your family and friends think you are as a realtor, and like you're, waking up at 10:30 a.m. But your life really as a real estate agent has this little speeding car, like bouncing around the roads all over the place, trying to get to appointments. For some reason, that just cracks me up. But anyway, your content that you post all the time, it really brings a smile to my face, and it doesn't matter what kind of day I'm having. I can look to that and have a smile and a laugh. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's great.
She's much more genuine than me. So that's a real compliment.
A great compliment.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what keeps it going. Glad people are enjoying it.
So you've grown an insane following on Instagram. And I know at one point you told me you were like shadow banned. I mean, you've had some ups and downs with the gram. So
that was a lie, just because my content was doing poor. So
okay. I like
tell
it.
Everyone I was shadow banned.
Well,
you should blame the algorithm.
You shouldn't have told anybody that. Now the cat's out of the bag with our 5 listeners.
Well, all 5 listeners are not going to think differently.
So in all seriousness, so I've heard you speak on other interviews before, where you're getting a ton of people that will follow you just from a couple simple things. So if you're a real estate agent trying to grow your brand on a local level, because I mean, what are some like tips or hacks you'd have for people that are checking this out now, or on the replay, or on YouTube, or wherever else?
Instagram Reels is the number one thing I'd be doing right now. Anytime Instagram comes out with a new feature, whether it was IGTV, stories, or whatever it is, it really pushes that content more than anything. And Instagram Reels has its own explore feed and its own algorithm, kind of similar to TikTok. So if you're not posting Reels, it's going to be really tough to grow right now, because Instagram's suppressing all the other content. So if I'm just doing a regular meme post or a tweet post, that performs like a third of what an actual Instagram Reel does. So vertical video for sure is what you should focus on, whether it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts is coming out with something. Facebook's going to have vertical video as well. You're doing Reels. I see, Tom, there.
Yes.
You're doing like reaction videos. You and Byron are playing off of each other, which is good. But that's the kind of content people like to consume now, is 15-second high quality vertical video. But as far as other engagement tactics on Instagram, you want to be commenting on other pages within the industry that are similar to yours, so that your name actually pops up. So for me, I comment on Inman News, the article that you just wrote, which is from Inman News. That's a popular real estate blog and media company. I comment on Tom Ferry, a popular real estate coach, your page, just to like keep my name out there. And then you got to respond to every comment. And it's just kind of like a give and take on social media. So the more you're engaged with the platform, the more engagement you're also going to get. And you also have to post consistently. So I'm always posting 2 or 3 times a day, variety of content, using all of Instagram's features, and then posting 8 to 15 Instagram stories a day, because the more stories you post and the more people interact with your stories, the more they're going to interact with your actual content.
Love it. So, I mean, that's an important thing. I mean, you guys write that stuff down, that especially for anyone trying to build a brand, doesn't matter if it's real estate or otherwise, that's going to be the easiest, most organic way to do it. And that's why, Eric is so on top of this, because he understands the content to put out and then actually puts the work in to create it, which is it's not easy posting all that on social media. I think a lot of people think it's like, oh yeah, they're just on social media all the time. You got to natively upload all this stuff. You're responding back to people. It's a lot of work. It's time consuming.
My entire day, yeah. All I do is post on social media. Literally, I wake up at 7 a.m. and start posting Instagram stories. And then I have other accounts too. I have Bad Real Estate Picks. I have the Over Ask podcast, the Broke News Network. So I'm trying to keep all these other channels populated, plus the Facebook page, plus the Twitter, plus the TikTok. So I'm glad that you recognize that it's not that easy.
Look, I'm trying to do it on a real estate level. I know Stacey does the same thing, and we're not doing it nearly at the level you are. And the point is that it takes a lot of work, and you got to have a plan to do it. I mean, you just listed out like 5 or 6 things anyone can implement right now. And the same thing goes for, if you're like a local restaurant listening and you want to, build your brand that way. I mean, any local business can do this. And I think that's why it's so relevant you coming on, because you scaled something to a level where if you're in real estate, unless you're living under a rock or you're opening your cell phone to make calls, you know who the broke agent is. So we've got about 5 minutes left here. So, you mentioned something that I find really interesting, the barstool of real estate and evolving the brand. So I love that idea. And if you look at what Dave Portnoy does, I mean, pizza reviews are kind of what really ramped things up for him. So what's coming down the pike for the broke agent? How can I help you become the barstool? I don't think I really can, but if I can, I'm happy to do it. What does that mean? I mean, because some people may not know what barstool is.
So yeah, Barstool is a sports media site that is kind of like the average sports watcher, and they have betting sites, they have podcast network, they have YouTube videos, they have a blog. So it's basically just like the common sports fans sports blog. So I'm trying to do that with real estate. And what I need help with is I need more creators. I need more real estate agents that are actually producing content, producing funny content. And I'm finally starting to come across a lot. There's a guy named Matt Leonetti out in Canada.
Hysterical.
He's doing hilarious Instagram reels. He's doing music videos. He's doing rap videos. And he's the guy that I host the Over Ask podcast with. There's a guy named Ben Fisher in Long Beach who I'm doing the Broke News Network with, or was doing the Broke News Network with. And what I need is just more voices. I need a female voice as well. Like right now, it's just like 3 guys just constantly talking about real estate. And I think I need to bring on other perspectives. I mean, I think most realtors actually are women. I think it's like 55%.
Yeah, it's 55%. Yeah.
On that statistic.
No, you're right.
Good. Got that one. That's the only thing I know is that 87% fail in the first 5 years and 55% of agents are realtors. That's literally the only thing I know about real estate. So yeah, I need more content creators and I need more avenues. I want more podcasts kind of like yours that are more educational in real estate. Mine's kind of a focus on social media. I want to create like an actual show, which is a, kind of Curb Your Enthusiasm-esque of real estate, where it's a, actual actor walking around and dealing with all these crazy situations, whether it's just like a YouTube short form or an actual, 20, 30-minute Facebook watch show, something like that. And then we're building out the merchandise, which I think is going to be really cool. I'm completely revamping the store, thebrokeagentstore.com, with kind of funny real estate merch for agents to wear, where they could promote their business without really promoting their business, without looking like a jerk about it, basically. So that's kind of the direction I want to take it in. And yeah, the main goal really is just to find and attract talent, so I can help that talent grow on my social media by posting them, and then they can help the brand grow by posting content as well.
So if any of our 5 listeners are interested in getting into content creation with the broke agent, so how does people get in touch with you in all seriousness? I mean, I know Instagram's a great way, and you will. Eric he responds to everything. I mean, I like, that is a lot of work. And
just to you.
Oh, thank you. You see, you blew it. You could have just said that. It would have been fine. You can't take the compliment. So
I know. Well, I have our conversations flagged, but you can reach me DMs or info@thebrokeagent.com.
So you're looking for content creators. I love that. I think that's really important. You got the Broke Agent Store. Follow him on Instagram. He's got the Over Ask podcast, BNN. So, we got a minute and a half here. Real estate agents out there, you gave them a lot of tips. What's maybe one thing that, if you haven't talked about it, they can implement today that's going to help their business?
You're asking me to give advice
from a social media standpoint. Yeah, social media standpoint.
From a social media standpoint.
You only sold like 3 houses, so we can't really use you for anything more than social media.
This year, hey. I would just post as consistently as possible and try to be funny with your marketing, or actually, implement some of your personality. there's so many agents that are posting the exact same thing, whether it's just sold templates, just listed templates, or a picture of them in front of a car with a motivational quote slapped to it. You got to be different and stand out from all these agents. So use your personality. If you like the Sixers, if you like the Eagles, post about that, because you're actually going to attract people that like things that you like, and then they're going to want to work with you. So you want to show who you are, and then also video as much as possible. So vertical video, and just constantly keep showing yourself and be top of mind, because that's our goal, right? Is to just be top of mind. So,
well, yeah, only 5% of the population is actually making a real estate decision. So there are a lot of times that, they don't even want to think about it because it's so horrible going through these transactions, which is what the whole thing platform's all about. And as a side note,
another stat that I could use. Thank you.
You got it. And as a side note, Nick calls vertical videos hot dog style. I thought that was a great way you could implement that. I like it. So
I like that.
If you got questions, again, reach out to Eric. It's at The Broke Agent on Instagram. You got a question, you got a topic, you want us to cover something, email us at info@tooletimeradio.com. Find the live stream on Facebook at Tom Toole Sales Group, or you can follow Stacey at the number 2 Mitchco, 2 MITCHCO on Instagram, or you can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD, Tom Toole the third. There's an E at the end of Toole on Instagram as well. Thanks for tuning in to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. Eric, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.